If you spend any time at all outside, you know mosquitoes are a real problem. So Mark went over to Trad's Garden Center to meet with their pest control folks to find out about solutions.
With the Zika virus and all other diseases spreaded all over the world and now in your backyard, it's important to protect your family and yourself. And one of the culprits that's spreading the disease, mosquitoes. And here to talk about that, I have Bill Edgerton, and you're part of Trad's, but you're part of the pest control division, correct?
That's correct.
So like, what's a typical day for you?
A typical day for me, get in the office about 7 o'clock, make sure that the guys have all the materials that they need for the work that they're going to be doing during the course of the day so they can take care of doing their service calls. Then once I get them out the door, start returning phone calls myself, unless I'm riding with one of them to do some training out in the field, and I do a lot of that.
So perfect. So you're out in the field a lot, so you're the go-to guy if I'm going to talk about mosquitoes, right?
More or less.
More or less.
More or less.
Let's start with, what type of diseases do mosquitoes spread?
They carry a lot of different diseases. The most common that we have here in Florida are the encephalitises. We've got Eastern encephalitis, Eastern equine encephalitis, St. Louis encephalitis, Western equine encephalitis, and West Nile encephalitis.
And what are side effects if somebody gets that?
They can be pretty serious. What encephalitis means is a swelling of the brain. And there have been people who have lost their sight. There have been people that have died. Generally, it's the elderly and infirm that are at greatest risk of dying, or the extremely young that are at danger for or risk of dying from that.
Now, obviously, we're talking about some serious stuff here. Is it a seasonal thing? Because I feel like in North Florida, it's not. I feel like you could get bit by a mosquito every month.
It varies according to the weather. When it gets warmer, the mosquitoes are more active. There are years here where January is warm enough for you to still have mosquito activity. So while there are peaks in it, there is really not a month of the year that's completely safe from mosquitoes here in Florida.
And where do you encounter mosquitoes the most, typically?
Typically, you'll encounter them around vegetation if you're out during the daytime. If you're out at dusk or in the evening, you'll run into them just about anywhere. They're attracted toward the carbon dioxide that we exhale, and that's how they detect mammalian activity, and that's what they feed on, is the blood of mammals. And it varies from species to species as far as what their preferred host is, but we've got 20 varieties of what are considered medically important mosquitoes here in the North Florida area. And each one of them has their own individual habits. It used to be that mosquitoes were only a danger at dawn, dusk, or in the evenings. Now there are mosquitoes here that will feed during the daytime.
Wow, wow, it's scary. Now, here we are, you know, we're in the middle of Trad's. You see all these plants. Now, I've once read that there are certain plants that actually repel mosquitoes. Is that true? Is there anything to that?
To a certain extent. Marigolds are one that give off a scent that is repellent to mosquitoes. Citronella, you hear a lot about citronella candles,
right,
and things like that. And in the case of most of these plants, it's not the plant itself, but something that you can do with the plant that will create the repellency.
And what would be an example of that?
An example of that is mint leaves. You could take mint leaves and rub them on your skin, and it will give you a certain degree of repellency, but just having a mint plant sitting there won't necessarily prevent you from having mosquitoes around you.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you this. What is the best way to ward off mosquitoes?
Well, the best way to ward off mosquitoes is to treat for them. Because what happens is adult mosquitoes will rest in foliage during the daytime. So the best way to take care of that is to treat that foliage with something that has a long-term residual, so that when the mosquitoes roost there, then it will kill them and get rid of them. I'm not going to tell you that there won't be any mosquitoes in the area, but the numbers will be drastically reduced from that.
And what is that process? What does it look like?
We use a gas-powered fogger, and we use a micro-encapsulated product to treat on there, and that will have a long-lasting effect as far as killing mosquitoes. There's also an insect growth regulator in our application that will cause the mosquito eggs to either not be viable, or the mosquito larvae that do hatch from those won't be able to develop into adult mosquitoes.
And then how often do you get your property treated?
The treatments that we do are guaranteed for 60 days. So it works for quite some time.
And then throughout the year, how many times do you recommend people get it treated?
5 to 6.
5 to 6?
Yes, because there really isn't a time of year where mosquitoes are an impossibility here in Florida.
You gave us so much information, and it is kind of overwhelming all year round. You really got to protect your family and yourself from mosquitoes. So I strongly suggest that you come down here to Trad's Garden Center, and we have farmers markets on the weekends where you could stop by, learn about the different plants they have here, but also the pest control division. You meet someone like Bill. So thanks again, and the address here is 8178 San Jose Boulevard.